All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into what is honestly one of the most high-stakes economic mysteries surrounding the most populated country on Earth right now. We are going to unpack the data, the shifting demographics, and a ticking clock that's essentially going to shape the future of India and, frankly, the entire global economy.
When Elon Musk posted a warning stating that population collapse is a far bigger threat to civilization than climate change, people were genuinely shocked. This is the guy known for building electric cars and sending rockets to space, right? So when he sounds the alarm on human demographics, people tend to listen. But why is the richest man on Earth so intensely worried about a lack of babies?
Section 1. The Population Collapse Warning. Okay, to understand exactly what sparked all this alarm, we need to look at a single, mathematically crucial trend line that's currently breaking the world. And it's happening in a place practically no one expected.
That trend line boils down to one incredibly crucial number, 1.9. That is India's current total fertility rate, or TFR. Think of TFR as the average number of children a woman has over her lifetime. Now, the golden rule of demographics is pretty simple. If that number sits at 2.1, a population holds steady. But for the very first time in Indian history, their TFR has dropped to 1.9. It's actually fallen below that replacement threshold. Mathematically speaking, India's population is now officially guaranteed to shrink.
Now hold on a second. Your very first reaction to that 1.9 figure might be exactly what mine was. Wait a minute, shouldn't fewer people in a famously crowded country actually be a great thing?
It seems perfectly logical. We're talking about a nation with roughly 200 million people living in poverty. The government is currently handing out subsidized food to 800 million citizens just to keep them afloat. Their hospitals and schools are incredibly strained. So a smaller population would naturally mean less poverty and way more resources for everyone to lead a better life, right? Well, actually scratch that. The reality builds into something far more dangerous than overcrowding.
Section 2, getting old before rich. Because here's the thing, to truly see a country's future, you have to look at nations that are already living out your trajectory. Your future is their present.
Take South Korea, for example. They're currently sitting at a fertility rate of 0.75. If you do the pure math on what that number actually does, it's wild. Imagine starting with 200 Korean parents. At a 0.75 replacement rate, they only have 75 children. And then those 75 children will only have 28 babies. In just 3 generations, a population literally shrinks from 200 people down to fewer than 30. That is an absolute freefall. And this demographic freefall brilliantly illustrates the kind of dystopian reality we're already seeing over in Japan. Japan actually crossed the population decline threshold 2 decades ago. Today, they have over 9 million completely empty abandoned homes with literally no one to inherit them. Thousands of schools are just shutting down. In 2024, Japan actually sold more adult diapers than baby diapers. The loneliness epidemic has gotten so severe there that elderly people are apparently committing minor crimes on purpose just so they can have some semblance of community inside a jail.
But here is the truly terrifying twist for India. When demographers classify a country as old, it means 14% of its people are above age 65. Let's trace the GDP per capita when these countries hit that milestone. Japan got old in 1994 as a wealthy country, with a per capita GDP of around $40,000. South Korea, they got old as a rich country too. Even China is getting old right now, but as a comfortable middle-class economy at around $13,000 per person. But India is on track to get old with a per capita GDP of just $2,700. They're about to get old while their citizens are still working as daily wage laborers.
Which brings us to Section 3, the demographic dividend explained. Because to understand how countries escape this terrible trap of getting old before getting rich, we really need to introduce the central engine of national wealth creation.
There's this concept in economics called the demographic dividend. Think of it as this magical 30 to 40-year window in a country's lifespan where the math just perfectly tilts in its favor. Suddenly, you have a massive population of working-age people and very few young or elderly dependents to take care of. During this golden window, if those young people are working hard, they can single-handedly uplift an entire nation out of poverty.
Let's trace when different countries hit their absolute peak worker share. Japan peaked right around 1990, which is exactly when they became the world's #2 economy. China peaked in 2010 at a staggering 74%, using that exact window of time to become a manufacturing superpower. South Korea peaked in 2015, having built global giants like Samsung within that very same economic bump. But then, there's India. India is the only one still climbing. Their demographic window doesn't actually peak until 2041.
So India is right inside that golden window today. But, and this is a huge but, here's the highly dangerous catch. This dividend, it's not a gift, it's a loan. That massive young population shows up for free, sure, but it only turns into wealth if the country actually creates jobs for them. Think about it. A 25-year-old with a job is a taxpayer building the nation's wealth. A 25-year-old sitting idle, well, they're a dependent today and a massive unfunded burden on the economy tomorrow.
Section 4. India's ticking time bomb. And this brings us right to the immediate, high-stakes problem unfolding in India's economy at this very moment.
See, even though India currently has the largest young workforce in all of human history, their job creation is really struggling. An alarming 40% of their workforce is still stuck in agriculture. And in the grand scheme of an economy, agriculture is the absolute lowest productivity work available.
And it's not just about the sector, it's about the quality of the jobs that do exist. Something like 85 to 90% of India's workforce is completely informal. That means no employment contracts, no pensions, no safety nets whatsoever, and crucially, they aren't building any of the household savings they're going to desperately need when they inevitably get old.
I want you to really let this number sink in, 28 million. Out of 1.4 billion people in the entire country, only about 28 million actually pay income tax. That leaves around 1 billion people living on less than $1,000 a year, just stuck doing low productivity work.
Section 5. Diffusing the demographic disaster. So the clock is ticking loudly. How exactly does the government diffuse this demographic bomb before the window slams shut entirely?
Well, the only proven solution in modern economic history is to aggressively push the population up what we call the economic ladder of productivity. A farmer with a cow barely makes $1,000 a year. But if you move that exact same farmer into a factory, they become way more productive and make, say, $2,000 to $4,000 a year. Then that factory worker's child can get an education and become an engineer, suddenly making $40,000 a year. Each generation graduates to a better place. This is the blueprint. This is how you build a rich, older population that actually has the savings to take care of itself.
But to make that ladder work, you absolutely need that middle step. India urgently needs a manufacturing boom. Today, manufacturing is only about 13% of India's economy. When China was at this exact same stage of development, manufacturing was pushing 25%. You simply cannot employ 600 million young people in IT and services alone. Factories are the mandatory, totally irreplaceable stepping stone.
Ultimately, the biggest takeaway from this whole explainer is that having a young population isn't a permanent achievement. It's an invisible clock ticking down to old age. Every single year of delay in building factories and creating jobs is a year of that demographic dividend completely burnt and wasted. We're not just talking about being young, we're talking about being poor and young, with exactly one shot to become rich before getting old.
The choice here is incredibly stark, and the countdown is happening right now. Either policymakers become hyper-obsessed with employing this generation in manufacturing today, turning today's worker into tomorrow's saver, or the state pays the impossible price of trying to feed 600 million poor, elderly citizens for the next 50 years. So will India seize its 2041 deadline, or will it become a terrifying cautionary tale of a demographic disaster? It is undoubtedly a question that will define the 21st century. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today, and I highly encourage you to keep a close eye on these numbers. They tell the real story.